Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're talking about 3 stories that got a lot of media hype and news hype in the last week or two. We're going to separate the truth from the hype. We have the Joro Spider invasion. We have a woman eaten by a reticulated python. And we have the Vans drama. You may see those 3 headlines and think you can guess what is truth and what is fiction. But stick around because some things might not be what they seem. I'm John. This is Butts. And you're watching the Scaly Scoop here on Tipping Scales.
Okay, it's an isolated incident.
You get to determine what is our pet.
Snakes, a lizard, and a crocodile were removed from a home in Beaver County, Pennsylvania.
My Lord, a snapping turtle. Wow.
Let's start with the Joro Spider.
If you have a fear of spiders, this venomous flying arachnid will send you running.
If I don't have your attention after flying spiders, I don't know what is going to wake you up. Evidently, they are on their way from Asia to much of the United States.
There's been a lot of hype about the Joro Spider. It's a giant, venomous, flying spider apparently set to invade the East Coast and New York City.
New York City!
When I say it like that, it does sound pretty scary, doesn't it? But let's separate fact from fear-mongering when it comes to the Joro Spider. First of all, the Joro Spider is a type of orb weaver, very similar to the native orb weavers that we have here in the States already. Can you tell what the difference between these 2 pictures is?
They're the same picture.
They're actually not. The one on the left is the Joro Spider. The one on the right is a native writing spider, also known as the black and yellow garden spider. Neither are dangerous to people or pets, but as an invasive species, are they dangerous to the ecosystem? We'll come back around to that. So why emphasize these spiders are venomous if they're not dangerous? Clicks. Just like with murder hornets and everything else, people love something to be scared of. The bite of a Joro Spider has been compared to the bite of a mosquito. And that's if you can even get one to bite at all, because they're a very docile spider. Are they really 4 inches long? From the tip of the front of their legs to the tip of the back of their legs. Yes, they are 4 inches long. But that's not typically how we measure spiders. This is a big spider, don't get me wrong. But 4 inches is a little misleading. There's a joke to be had there. I will let a scorned ex make that joke. Not my scorned ex. One of you. Never mind. So how do these big 4-inch spiders fly? Well, they don't. The only time they fly is as babies, when they're about the size of a sesame seed. What they do is they let out a little bit of silk, and that silk catches the wind and then carries them wherever the wind do blow. This isn't something that's actually unique to the Joros either. Hundreds of species do the exact same thing. There have been baby spiders on the breeze above your head your entire life. Not to freak you out. So why call attention to this one? Again, just clicks. And they didn't fly here from Asia like little spider baby paratroopers either. They most likely, as with so many other invasive species, arrived on cargo. This is also not breaking news. Joro spiders have been here for over a decade. There's been a population in Georgia for the last 10 years at least, if not longer, and there's a population in Maryland. So what impact on the ecosystem does this have? Experts are finding very little so far. It does seem that areas where there's a higher population of Joro spiders, there is a smaller population or a non-existent population of native orb weavers, which makes sense because orb weavers that are native have the same behavioral patterns as these Joro spiders. They still eat roaches and other pests and build intricate webs right on our decks and right in front of our faces, the same way the native writing spiders or banana spiders do. They're certainly not out flying around biting people. And currently the only fact-based concern seems to be if you are a native orb weaver. All my native orb weavers, hit that like button. Moving on to our next story. A woman in Indonesia was apparently eaten by a 16-foot reticulated python. Stories like these are always sad. But is it true? The report going around is that a woman in Indonesia was going about her day when she suddenly disappeared. Her husband found her belongings, and when she didn't return Thursday night, a search began. During the search on Friday, a very full reticulated python was found, and inside of it was, of course, the 45-year-old woman, deceased. This is all true. It's not the first time it's happened, and it won't be the last. It's not even the first time this year. Now, that's not to say this happens all the time, but it does happen. There's a video that goes with this story showing the men cutting open the snake and pulling the woman out. I'm obviously not going to show that video here because it's too graphic, and I don't want this video to get pulled, but there will be a link to it down below if you want to see it. So why? Here on a reptile channel, am I talking about something that could be considered a thing that could make people more afraid of snakes? It's because there are some important things to be made about this too. I talked a little bit about this last year in my top 5 myths about snakes video, if you want to check that out. But I want to look at this from a little different angle than I did in that video. So when I first came across this story the other week, I saw a lot of folks from the reptile community who didn't believe it was real. Part of me understands that because there are so many false things geared towards the fear of snakes and sowing fear. I mean, look at our first story, but especially fear of snakes. But I also feel like it's irresponsible not to recognize these animals as apex predators. Not this, but a full-grown reticulated python is an apex predator. It's not about fear, it's about respect. No different than with other large apex predators. Not only is this story true, but there are 4 or 5 recorded cases of this in Indonesia since 2017. All from wild reticulated pythons, and all involving a small Indonesian woman. And, importantly, one who has been alone. So you may be asking, why is it important that we talk about this? I wasn't going to say all of this because I feel like there might be some backlash, but I feel like it's important enough to risk it. I'm going to say some things that I feel like are going to upset some people, especially big constrictor people. These are just my opinions. I believe the number of large constrictors being produced by breeders is higher than the demand for them, or at least that the number produced are higher than those able to keep them both responsibly and in a space that they can thrive. Because of that, I feel like there's a higher likelihood of something like a mainland reticulated python getting into the hands of someone inexperienced, or someone who has watched one video saying snakes aren't out to eat people and who will take that out of context and forget that they're still dealing with an apex predator. I think owning these animals requires a lot of respect, which includes having rules in place. Things like always having a second set of eyes and hands when handling. I also think it's about being realistic that while uncommon, accidents do happen. While unlikely, it's not impossible. There are very few stories like this one, and I hope that we can teach people to respect powerful animals like these without worrying if we're going to scare somebody off or lose followers or lose sales for being realistic and not showing a false sense of security. Does that make sense? You don't have to be afraid of something to respect it or be responsible with it. And you don't have to swing so far in the opposite direction, trying to get people to not be afraid. It opens up the door for them to be irresponsible as well. The husband of this woman said in an interview that if she hadn't been alone, this wouldn't have happened. And I believe that is true. The facts are that snakes are opportunistic feeders and ambush predators. We know this. A 20-foot reticulated python isn't out hunting people, but that doesn't mean they aren't capable of taking you out in a one-on-one situation either. Those are just the facts. I bet you didn't expect me to go that way with it. But I've been thinking, and I think being honest and realistic about the power of these animals does more good for the animals, the people, the hobby, than it does burying our heads in the sand when stories like this show up. All right, moving on to our final and most recent story that many of you are probably aware of. The Vans shoe brand released an advertisement on the 16th. I do have the video for that coming up in a second, but what's being shared around is this photo, which is a screenshot of their advertisement on the Vans webpage, advertising their new Vans Cult Diamondback collection, which many people speculated was a dead snake. We all know this isn't a diamondback rattlesnake, but is a ball python, just like Buttercup here. Many who didn't see this video thought that this photo could be a frozen thawed snake that was placed on the shoes for photograph, but this video shows otherwise. A few things of note in this case is that while this is being sold on the Vans website, this is a project that is a collaboration with another popular BMX brand known as Cult, a subset of which is Cult Crew. And it was in fact Cult who not only shot the advertisement, but one of their employees, who the ball python, who is clearly on death's door, belongs to. Does this take the blame off of Vans? No, of course not. Both Cult and Vans had to sign off on this ad, and Vans shared it as their main advertising of this product. While it seems Vans is yet to comment on this, someone was able to get a response from the folks over at Cult, and this is how it reads. We created the content and released it through Vans. Everything has been removed from all social channels. The snake belongs to one of our employees, and we can assure you that they are well taken care of, fed, and hydrated. The shoot lasted no more than 10 minutes total, and we tried to put the least amount of stress on the snakes. We now see how bad this looks and removed all snakes from the marketing. I don't love that myself because it seems to ignore or deny that that snake was in horrible condition, clearly to animal abuse levels of neglect. And in my opinion, that reads as a dismissal of the issue, and simply that they pulled the ads because of backlash. If you want more on this story, Nerd has also released a video on this. They beat me to it this time. Not last time, but this time. And there you can find a call to action and more info, including a reply that Andy Gabbs got from the cult crew, which is about as pointless as the first reply. It basically says, we take full responsibility, but all our snakes are well fed and watered. Well, here's this photo again. This animal is clearly on death's door. It takes a long time to get a snake to look like that. This is a healthy ball python. You see the difference? Anyway, that's going to do it for today's Scaly Scoop, right? If you found this episode informative, hit the like. If you're not subscribed, over 90% of you are not subscribed. Do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. Thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to be kind to yourselves and each other, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye. Is that anything to say?